Hi guys, happy Pride Month. We're gonna do a quick fit check. I'm wearing my literary themed rainbow shirt and it says, take a look, it's in a book, totally intentional. That's actually all I have for the fit check, the shirt, that's really all that matters. If you don't know who I am, I'm Miss Warren. I'm the teacher librarian here on campus, and I'm here today to talk to you about books. Specifically, I have handpicked 8 YA books with characters from the LGBTQIA plus community. These are books that I have read, I've enjoyed, and I really think that you're gonna too. So our first book is actually so popular that I struggled to get a physical copy of it, but don't worry, it is available on Sora, our digital library. And if you want more info about that, just stop by the library and ask. So it's called Heartstopper. This is volume 1. It's by Alice Oseman. Go ahead and stand up. Thank you. And have a seat if you have a TikTok. Okay. Have a seat if you use Netflix. Wow, everybody is sitting. Weird. You may have seen this book on TikTok and even seen that on Netflix. They just started an adaptation of it. It's been getting a lot of attention and for really good reason. Charlie and Nick are actually the main characters, and they're pretty opposite. Charlie is a quiet, openly gay 15-year-old boy who has struggled with mental health issues. And then Nick is a 16-year-old, soft-hearted rugby player who's really, truly kind to everybody. They meet in their homeroom at the start of their second semester, and when they see each other, their heart stops. Hence the title. But Nick isn't gay, or at least he doesn't know if he is. Throughout this graphic novel, Nick and Charlie get to know each other and themselves through their friendship. People assume that graphic novels aren't reading, but they're absolutely wrong. Let's go ahead and take a look on the screen of 2 different pages from the book Heartstopper. So these are 2 pages from different parts in the book, but I put them together because they show a lot. What I want you to do is take a minute to look at the words and the illustration on the page. A lot of times with graphic novels, authors and illustrators put so much meaning into their characters' facial expressions and the things happening behind them. What do you see happening in these 2 pages? You probably noticed that Charlie, he's actually in both sides of the screen. His facial expression tells you a lot. If we look at the left side first, at the top, he looks very anxious and worried. And even the words behind him indicate this because it's a lot of questions and a lot of self-doubt. And he seems to be concerned that something's happening that he's not a big fan of. And then he gets interrupted. And here we actually get to meet Nick. So Charlie's a dark-haired boy, and on the bottom left, we have Nick. And he somehow spilled his pen all over his hands, and he asked Charlie if he has any tissues. And even there, Charlie's expression goes from like extreme concern to just kind of like caught off guard. But you can almost see that he's about to have some humor in the situation. On the right, we have a completely different scenario. This is a different character. Again, it's Charlie, but it's Charlie now with Ben. And Ben is asking Charlie a question. We can tell from Ben's face that he's pretty aggressive. And Charlie goes from looking anxious in the top panel to then below being grabbed by Ben, and then he looks concerned. So graphic novels have so much more than just words on the page. You have images that tell you a whole story as well. So if you want to see how Nick and Charlie's relationship unfolds, you're going to have to actually borrow the book. And I do recommend reading the book first and then watching it on Netflix. Plus, a pro tip, there's already 4 released volumes of this book, so you could get ahead of everybody watching Netflix and know what's going to happen before they do. Moving on to our next novel. Some people are extraordinary. Some people are just extra. That's the tagline for TJ Klune's The Extraordinaries, a fantasy-based novel. And he proves this point by kicking off the book with some epic faux fan fiction. I'm going to read to you some of this faux fan fiction right now. So, fic, this is where we scorch the earth. Author, Shadowstar 744. Chapter 67 of question mark? It keeps getting longer. 267,654 words, like a lot longer. Pairing, Shadowstar, an original male character. Rated, PG-13. Rating might go up. but I don't know if I would be good at it. Ugh. Tags, true love, pining, gentle shadow star, violence, happy ending, first kiss, maybe some smut if I can talk myself into it, but who knows? Chapter 67, Caught in a Storm, author's note. Hey, sorry I haven't updated in a while. I was having computer problems and then my summer was really busy. I also had writer's block, which is the worst. I didn't mean to leave you on a cliffhanger for 4 months. But your comments asking me when I was going to update next gave me the inspiration I needed. Thanks for that. I can't promise when the next chapter will be out because I'm starting my junior year. Ugh. And I'll probably be really busy. Hopefully, it won't be too long, and sorry for any mistakes. My beta reader is apparently busy, whatever that means. And I'm not very good at editing. Just point out anything wrong in the comments, and I'll try and fix it. Thanks. This excerpt was written by the main character, Nick Bell. Bell is the biggest fan of Shadowstar, which is a real life superhero. So much so that he ends up writing fan fiction for Shadowstar, and he may or may not cast himself as the love interest. So this fan fiction actually inspires him to set out on a journey to try to become a hero himself and make this fantasy, pun intended, a reality. He wants to become an extraordinary, which is basically a superhero, so that he can have a chance with Shadowstar. And reluctantly along for the ride is Nick's best friend, Seth Gray. So will Shadowstar live up to Nick's expectations? Will they fall madly in love? Probably not, but you won't know unless you read the book. I brought a box of tissues to talk about this next book. It's Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alier Sayans. I also have some to-go packs for you guys on the way out if you end up borrowing this. Trust me, you're gonna need them. This book is beautiful and heartbreaking and wonderful and tragic, all of it. So you're definitely gonna feel all the feels. Dante is everything that Aristotle isn't. He's a swimmer, he's articulate, he's a fan of the arts, and he's actually really comfortable with who he is. Yet, these two still form a connection and bring out the best, truest selves of themselves in each other. However, it isn't until chapter 4 that they even meet. I'm going to read an excerpt from this book from that moment where they first meet. When I get to the pool, I had to take a shower. That was one of the rules. Yeah, rules. I hated taking a shower with a bunch of other guys. I don't know. I just didn't like that. You know, some guys like to talk a lot. Like it was a normal thing to be in the shower with a bunch of guys and talking about the teacher you hated or the last movie you saw or the girl you wanted to do something with. Not me. I didn't have anything to say. Guys in the shower, not my thing. I walked to the pool and sat on the shallow side and put my feet in the water. What do you do in the pool when you don't know how to swim? Learn. I guess that was the answer. I had managed to teach my body to stay afloat on water. Somehow I'd stumbled on some principle of physics. And the best part of the whole thing was that I'd made the discovery all on my own. Anyway, the swimming instructors who called themselves lifeguards sucked. See, the thing about guys is that I don't really care to be around them. I mean, guys really make me uncomfortable. I don't know why. Not exactly. I don't know. I just didn't belong. I think it embarrassed the hell out of me to be a guy. I had a feeling there was something wrong with me. I guess I was a mystery, even to myself. That sucked. I had serious problems. One thing was for sure. There was no way I was going to ask one of those idiots to help me with my swimming. It was better to be alone and miserable. It was better to drown. So I just kept to myself and sort of floated along, not that I was having fun. That's when I heard his voice, kind of squeaky. I can teach you how to swim. I moved over to the side of the pool and stood up in the water, squinting into the sunlight. He sat down on the edge of the pool. I looked at him suspiciously. If a guy was offering to teach me how to swim, then for sure he didn't have a life. Two guys without a life? How much fun could that be? I had a rule that it was better to be bored by yourself than to be bored with someone else. I pretty much lived by that rule. Maybe that's why I didn't have any friends. He looked at me, waiting, and then he asked again, I can teach you how to swim, if you want. I kind of liked his voice. He sounded like he had a cold, like he was about to lose his voice. You talk funny, I said. Allergies, he said. What are you allergic to? The air, he said. That made me laugh. My name's Dante, he said. That made me laugh harder. Sorry, I said. It's okay. People laugh at my name. No, no, I said. See, it's just that my name's Aristotle. His eyes lit up. I mean, the guy was ready to listen to every word I had to say. Aristotle, I repeated. Then we both kind of went a little crazy, laughing. This excerpt gives you so much insight into the characters, especially Aristotle, because he's the one who opens it. That first big chunk is from him. And I have a feeling that you guys actually have a better understanding of who he is than he does. This is definitely a coming of age story for both of these boys. And there's a lot of foreshadowing that just happened in that excerpt. But you're going to have to read the book to find out if you were correct in what you think is coming. Coming out can be extremely difficult, especially in the 1990s, especially when that person comes from a religion that traditionally doesn't accept homosexuality, and especially when language barriers between that person and their family cause the words to not be an option. This is exactly what Tien experiences in the graphic novel The Magic Fish by Trung Le Nguyen. As refugees of Vietnam, Tien's parents struggle with English, and he isn't actually sure there's even a Vietnamese way to say that he's gay. Instead, he attempts to discuss it with his parents through traditional fairy tales. This book is written with 3 different storylines in the graphic novel, and they're represented by colors. The first is the red panels, and the red panels are present tense, and they're from Tien's perspective. So they're actually present day, him attempting to come out to his parents. Next, we see a lot of blue panels. The blue panels are the traditional fairy tales that Tien is using to communicate with his parents. And then finally, we'll see yellow panels, and the yellow panels are flashbacks. Typically, they're to Tien's mother's youth, especially when she was fleeing Vietnam. The page on the screen right now it actually has an example of each of these. And even though they're 3 different storylines, this page shows a really good example of how they overlap. So the yellow shows Tien's mother and father fleeing from Vietnam to come to the United States. And in the blue fairy tale, we can see something emerging from the water. And as it comes up, it kind of gets creepy. It's some type of figure. He seems to be very sinister. And it appears as though flashback Tien's mom is making eye contact and seeing the fairy tale figure in the water. And then on the bottom right, we see Tien and his mom discussing the fairy tale, but also the flashback is occurring and his words seem to pull her out of the memory. Like his present words even overlap the panel that's a flashback. And so we can see that even though it's 3 different things occurring, they still connect so much. One of the really strong aspects of this book is the use of characters and how these variety of characters bring out different feelings and emotion in Tien. I have a couple examples of this from the book in this next page. This is Tien and his friend Julian at a school dance. And Tien asks Julian, "Are you gay?" And Julian says, "I don't think so." And then he kind of indicates that he knows that Tien is gay. And Tien asks how he knows. And we see a flashback where Tien announces that he wants to marry Leo. And we have to assume it's Leonardo DiCaprio from Titanic. And Julian expresses in a not forceful way that he accepts him, that he is okay with this. And it seems to really light up the bottom right panel where you can see that both of these boys are okay with the other one being who they are. But this scene, as beautiful as it is, actually leads to another interaction with a different character. And this is someone from Tien's religion. We see a religious figure speaking to Tien and asking if he has told his parents that he's gay. And he says he doesn't know how to because he's not sure there's a Vietnamese word for it. And the religious official says, "What a blessing. All the parents I've counseled, let me read it directly. All the parents I've counseled describe the heartbreak of their children coming out the same way. It always feels like a death in the family. And so he essentially makes Tien question if he should come out to his parents because he obviously doesn't want to hurt them. So will the pressure from the church keep Tien in the closet? Will he find a way to effectively communicate his sexuality to his parents? You're going to have to read to find out. Moving on to our next book. Monday, November 4th, 2013. By 4:30 in the afternoon, the first mad rush of after-school passengers has come and gone. What's left are stragglers and stay-laters, swiping their bus passes as they climb onto the 57 bus and take seats among the coming home workers, the shoppers and errand doers, the other students from high schools and middle schools around the city. The bus is loud, but not as loud as sometimes. A few clusters of kids are shouting and laughing, and an old woman at the front keeps talking to the driver. Dark is coming on. Daylight saving ended yesterday, and now evening rushes into the place where afternoon used to be. Everything is duskier, sleepier, wintry now. Passengers look at their phones or stare through the scratched and grimy windows at the waning light. Sasha sits near the back. For much of the journey, the teenager has been reading a paperback copy of Anna Karenina for a class in Russian literature. Today, like most days, Sasha wears a t-shirt, a black fleece jacket, a gray flat cap, and a gauzy white skirt. A senior at a small private high school, the teenager identifies as agender, neither male nor female. As the bus lumbers through town, Sasha puts the book down and drifts into sleep, skirt draped over the edge of the seat. A few feet away, 3 teenage boys are laughing and joking. One of them, Richard, wears a black hoodie and an orange-billed New York Knicks hat. A 16-year-old junior at Oakland High School, he's got hazel eyes and a slow, sweet grin. He stands with his back to Sasha, gripping the pole for bounce. Sasha sleeps as Richard and his companions goof around, play fighting. Sleeps as Richard's cousin, Lloyd, bounds up and down the aisle, flirting with a girl up front. Sleeps as Richard surreptitiously flicks a lighter and touches it to the hem of that gauzy white skirt. Wait. In a moment, Sasha will wake inside a ball of flame and begin to scream. In a moment, everything will be set into motion. Taken by ambulance to a San Francisco burn unit, Sasha will spend the next 3.5 weeks undergoing multiple surgeries to treat 2nd and 3rd degree burns, running from calf to thigh. Arrested at school the following day, Richard will be charged with 2 felonies, each with a hate crime clause that will add time to his sentence if he is convicted. Citing the severity of the crime, the district attorney will charge him as an adult, stripping him of the protections normally given to juveniles. Before the week is out, you will be facing the possibility of life imprisonment. But none of that has happened yet. For now, both teenagers are just taking the bus home from school. Surely it's not too late to stop things from going wrong. There must be some way to wake Sasha, divert Richard, get the driver to stop the bus. There must be something you can do. Did I just completely spoil the end of this book for you? Nope. I simply read the first section, not even full 2 pages, of the 57 bus by Dashka Slater. So if you already know the outcome of what happens in this true crime, this is a true story, it actually happened, what else could happen in the remaining 317 pages? The answer to that question is what actually makes this book truly remarkable. Hinted in the opening, you might find yourself having sympathy for both of the not characters, these are real people, both of the teenagers as you read this book. You're going to find out how effective the author is at doing just that by reading it. All right, our next book is They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. I have projected the book cover so that you can see it a little bit clearer. And I want to take a minute to just appreciate the beautiful artwork that is this book cover. If you notice, there's actually some kind of subliminal connections from the art to the actual title. If you look, the 2 characters seem to have cast a shadow, but that shadow does not appear to be their own. It looks like the Grim Reaper, and it is obviously following them. That may be an indication or a connection to that title. And then you also might notice that there's like a skull watching them from the sky. I just think that it's such a beautiful way to tie into the novel. And I always love when there's kind of hidden pictures in the book. So again, this is They Both Lay at the End by Adam Silvera. I regret to inform you that sometime in the next 24 hours, you'll be meeting an untimely death. And while there isn't anything we can do to suspend that, you still have a chance to live. This is the phone call from Deathcast that Mateo and Rufus, the two main characters, each separately receive. When they receive this call, they don't actually know each other. But thanks to Last Friend, which is an app that connects people who are on their death day, they'll become extremely close. Told through 4 parts and with various perspectives, we get to watch as Rufus and Mateo first come together and cross paths, become friends, and maybe even something more. But what a shame for that to happen in their final hours of life. You'll actually find yourself hoping that this title is actually a misnomer and wanting them to get there happily ever after. Will it happen? Or is this just a blunt way of saying what comes to the end? Read to find out. Brujos, summon ghosts, chicken blood rituals, mysterious murders, and love. Totally makes sense, right? All this and more can be found in Aidan Thomas's Cemetery Boys. Yadriel's family is a Latinx family where the boys in the family become brujos, which are witches. But Yadriel wasn't born a boy. He wasn't born male. So his father keeps him from the tradition. Yadriel decides to take matters into his own hands, and he attempts to summon the ghost of his recently murdered cousin. Except that doesn't quite work out, and he ends up summoning Julian Diaz, a high school boy who was murdered at the same time as his cousin. And Julian ends up wanting to find out how and why he was killed, and he refuses to go to the other side. So these two end up striking a mutually beneficial agreement so that they both can get what they want. Yadriel can maybe figure out what killed his cousin and then become a true brujo, and Julian can find out why he died and pass on peacefully. Except, of course, plot twist, not a spoiler alert, they end up realizing maybe they like each other's company a little bit more than they had originally thought. Will Yadriel receive his father's blessing and become a true brujo? Will he and Julian find a way to make their connection last? Will they solve the mystery of 2 murders and more? Only one way to find out. A forest sprite, a green blob, a female garden gnome, a wyvern, a teen boy who morphs into a Pomeranian, and the literal son of the devil. These are just some of the cast of characters that you will meet in The House of the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. That name might sound familiar because he also wrote The Extraordinaries, which was our second book we talked about. These young characters are magical creatures living at the Marius Island Orphanage. Linus Baker works at the department in charge of magical youth, and he has been assigned to come to this orphanage to check that these children are being well cared for, but more importantly, he is expected to make sure that they're causing no harm to others. In this world, people are so fearful of magical creatures, even though they exist and are just living among everyone else. Here is where he meets the previously mentioned characters, along with Arthur Parnassus, who is the leader of the orphanage, and Zoe Chapelwhite, who's a sprite that owns the land where the orphanage is. While the book is whimsical and so laugh out loud funny, and it's full of quirky characters, it definitely has a deeper meaning and a message that is super important about prejudices. And it's the perfect message to fully embrace for Pride Month. I'm going to read that to you that kind of helps sum it up. Hate is loud, but I think you'll learn it's because it's only a few people shouting, desperate to be heard. You might not ever be able to change their minds, but so long as you remember that you're not alone, you will overcome. Expect to laugh and cry and feel all the feels when you read this one. Legitimately one of my favorite books from the last couple of years. So good.